All the neighbors in our apartment complex came out and said hi. That's when we met Ben. That's when we met Ben. Right away. I got creepy vibes off of him. Our daughter, who to this day is way too friendly to strangers, hid behind my husband, and visibly cringed. We made small talk, but mainly paid more attention to unloading our stuff than chatting with our new neighbors. My dad later told me that at one point he came back to the truck and saw Ben staring at our daughter. My dad called him out. When Ben denied it, my husband eventually told him to go fuck off. Later that night, me and my husband were still going through our stuff. Our daughter was staying the night at my parents' house. It was about 10:30 p.m. We heard a knock at the door. Thinking that it was the pizza that I ordered, my husband opened the door. And there stood Ben. He asked us if we needed any help. Him showing up at our door so late at night, even for a friendly neighbor, was just creepy. Before we could tell him to get lost, he demanded a cigarette. Not only was he a total weirdo, but now he was just being plain rude. Neither of us smoked. And when we told him, he got a bit pissed. He started yelling, screaming at my husband. And began pounding on the wall. This guy was unhinged. Thankfully, our landlord lived across the way from us at the time. He came out to tell him off. As Ben sauntered away, our landlord explained to us that Ben is the resident pest and suffered from mental issues. But overall, was harmless as long as he took his meds. Yeah, because that's exactly what you want to hear on your first night in a new place. After that, life kind of fell into place, and we settled in without any further disruptions. We had crazy schedules, and would sometimes work graveyard shifts. I would get home around midnight. When see Ben standing outside the apartment building, he would always seem to be staring at me. I would just ignore him. Mainly because I was just too tired and wanted to get to bed. He would always ask me for cigarettes. And I kept telling him that I didn't smoke. My husband said that he did the same thing to him. We would change up our work times just to throw Ben off a little. And at first, it worked. But Ben started to pester us during the day. On our days off, we would take our kid to the park or the mountains. One time, Ben asked to come with us. Said that he was great with kids, and that we could trust him alone with our daughter. I really should have just let my husband deck him in the face right then and there. When we came back, he was sitting in our parking spot. Said that he was making sure no one parked in it. He then tried to hug our daughter. And she screamed. He clung on to me for dear life. I took her into the house. While my husband finally snapped, and really gave the guy an earful, telling him just to leave us the fuck alone. We told the landlord, they played the whole mental issues card. And look, I get it. Mental illness is never fun to deal with. But he was constantly harassing and terrifying my daughter. We have a duty to protect our family. It got to the point where my daughter didn't want to go outside. The bad man would be out and stare at her. We threatened to cut our lease if something wasn't done about it. I began talking to my other neighbors. Everyone seemed to have the same type of experience. One of my neighbors told me that another neighbor saw Ben staring at some of the young girls wearing bathing suits by the community pool, and they chased him off. They reported this to the landlord, but nothing was ever done. After about a month, things had quieted down. Ben wasn't spotted outside anymore. In fact, no one really saw him. We figured he moved away or something. Good riddance. We were thinking about moving in with my folks. While we saved up the money for a real house.